Cavecast, the uncensored show for nerds of all kinds.
Guys, thank you for your patience. The new episode is here, and tonight we got movie questions.
Yeah, we do. Yes.
It's one of those that we try not to do the movie thing too often because it's something that we talk about all the time off camera. Like, it's just one of our biggest loves, but it has been a minute, so I felt like it was time to kind of just go back to what we know and just have some fun with it.
Sure.
You know, we've got many opinions of things and many, many things we can tolerate, can't tolerate, our favorites or things like that. But I did push the audience this week into not ask us favorite questions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's smart because, like you said, it's not a rude way, but you can be more creative than that.
Yeah.
We get asked all the time. It's like, well, I don't always have the same answer because I feel like even just with music, sometimes my favorite this style movie kind of fluctuates around a little bit.
Yeah.
But the way some of this was worded kind of made me think like, no. Okay, this is a definite answer for at least part of it, or will always be this answer. Right. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, they definitely came in clutch this week, man.
Yeah.
It was on the Roadies Facebook, on Discord, and I think somewhere else. I can't remember where else I put it, but it's been a week. I learned that I cannot put podcast suggestions and things on my personal Facebook because usually what I get is just like random shit. One person was like, how high is the high ground or whatever? Like, Obi-Wan knows. And it's like, okay, that's funny, but like, that doesn't help me,
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, it was entertaining, but like, I've kind of learned like, where to dip into our audience to get some good stuff. Same. Or whatever, and Discord was definitely really good. Just so anybody that asked a question anywhere, first off, thank you, but understand we probably won't get to every single one. We chose a collection of them,
We won't be able to, unfortunately.
No, but just starting off strong here. Hope I'm saying this right. Let's see here. Oh, no, sorry. No, not Nevaeh yet. Jen wants to know, what is your favorite comfort movie? And I agree that there is a lot of fluctuations of different things at different times, but there's a couple of movies that just have stayed with me since I've watched them that if I'm cleaning or if I'm, just in a certain mood or whatever, I throw them on because I know exactly where I'm at, much like you watching The Office or whatever. It's just a little more condensed, where it's in a day rather than over a couple weeks or something, But
sure.
Limitless. That is, dude, dude, that is such a big comfort movie for me, dude. It is so much fun. It is directed so well, and it's like the way that he uses this drug and how the world is perceived to him, and this whole thing, it's him typing letters, writing his story, and you can see all these 3D letters coming down and they're organizing themselves, and it's like, oh, this is what's going on in Bradley Cooper's mind. And it's just the way that he is able to cunningly get through situations because he's using 100% of his brain.
Right.
Like being able to know that, certain people are sick because of how they look, of it's like, your heart's messed up, isn't it? It's like, you have to go to the doctor next month. You probably should. And it's like, he just knows it. It's such an interesting, just kind of story of what if you could have that much brain power, what would you do?
Sure.
It's the limit of the human mind, essentially. So it's fascinating.
I've actually only seen it all the way through once.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've seen clips and, stuff like that over the years, but sat down, actually watched it one time. And I argue probably around when it first came out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's been however long, but yeah, good movie. I just don't remember it being one of those that I replayed all the time. I had different movies than that, but it was the fact of, no, you're right. That movie was so wild though. When it first came out, you're like, oh my God, it's kind of like that movie Jumper and shit.
Dude, Jumper. I haven't thought about that in a long time. Oh my God.
Pulling it out.
Yeah.
But I never pull out. But
and the memes begin.
But no, I do remember when I saw it for the first time thinking dude, this movie is crazy. It was like The Matrix or something like that. How in depth and you said directed and stuff like that. It was cutting edge then, and I think that's what made it stand out. And Bradley Cooper being a fantastic actor.
Yeah. Well, it's even him and Robert De Niro. It's the fact that he's in it. And it was very interesting to see how they played off of each other, and I would say the unknown arrogance that Bradley has. or Eddie, the character that he plays, where, he's been able to work himself up into the stock market to essentially become an elite. And when De Niro looks at him and he's like, whatever gave you this ability, he's like, whether it was a straight shot of sperm or if it was, the right chromosomes or like being chosen by God, whatever, he's like, you didn't spend that 10 years in that wrong marriage with the right family. You didn't spend that time climbing the greasy rungs and making decisions of who gets hurt and who doesn't. And he's like, you were handed this, and he's like, never forget about where you came from.
Yeah.
And it's like, De Niro's character is complicated in that movie because he's kind of like the villain, but he's not, because like he's working in tandem with him. So like it's a complicated film because there is no straight like antagonist except for one character, and he's kind of like minuscule throughout like different parts. It's a thinking person's movie, and it's just something that you can either be fully invested in it and be blown away and try to keep up with all the details, or it's just listen to the dialogue. And the way that Bradley speaks is that there's a big difference from when he's off NCT and then on it, and like how he, goes about things. Like it's got that really cool, like green color grade to it. So like, it's got this really interesting, like artsy look. Like it's just everything.
Yeah, sure.
I can gush about that movie all day, but yeah.
See, and that's the thing too, is like when movies look a certain way in the fact of like how you remember it or like why it affects you, or, just because something's dialogue heavy doesn't mean it's not a good movie. One of mine is extremely dialogue heavy. I dare say there's like maybe 2 full minutes of action, if you will. But it's just one of those where like there was something about it even as a kid. So like I actually had a couple I threw in there, but it was just, don't want to harp on them too long, but it's the fact of you guys will get to see, it's almost like my playlist on my, my iPod, how it goes around, but like Breakfast Club, Liar Liar, and Half Baked.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like it just like those are some straight up go-to like comfort movies. And it was because of the original movie and being like really the only one that scared me, even though it was a made-for-TV movie as a kid, compared to the new ones that came out and how they were able to be viewed and going, us being able to go see like midnight viewings and stuff the day before. And then that was the last thing that we saw before COVID hit and everything got locked down. It's like, it's kind of got like that nostalgia as well. But, with like the Breakfast Club, that was something that I enjoyed even as a young kid as well, way before I should have appreciated that movie.
Right. It's borderline almost like a Tarantino movie. It's like there's so much dialogue.
There is. And it's like why and how I was so attracted to this movie. I don't know why when I was 8 years old, 6 years old, whatever it was. And, Liar Liar is just, well, it's Jim Carrey. Like, everybody says Ace Ventura, like, and that's great. And Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber is probably a close second, even though I think I watched Dumb and Dumber more. Liar Liar was just always one of those like quirky, like kind of fucked up movies.
Yeah.
Where like when you really think, you're like, you are an awful dad.
Yeah. Right.
You are a shithole dad.
And him not being able to lie for 24 hours is the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like when you as an adult, when I took that away from going, oh no, this movie is not just like it's funny. So when you're a kid, you watch it and it's funny. When you're now an adult and have children, you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I'm a bad father. I mean, I think that's maybe like the moment he realizes. Yeah.
But then, like the half bakes and stuff, that's more so the fact of like me and my buddy growing up with Jake. Like that gives me that whole like burnout mentality of when I was in high school and yeah, bro, like, it was, those types of things. So it kind of brings that like young feeling back. And not even to be funny, but when you're sitting there smoking a bowl or whatever, like doing that thing again, you like have that like snap back of when you were 17 years old in the basement with his brother sitting there doing the same thing. Like, oh, here comes the funny part, and it's just like, that's what that takes me back to even 25 years later.
Right.
And so like movies, much like music and smell, like kind of have those like trifecta of like putting you back in that moment.
Right.
So yeah, those were mine, but like, again, like not like for like specific, because, oh God, it was directed so good. Like, sure. But mine is more so in the fact of in that time and place and what it takes me to.
Well, I think that even like it's an interesting point you bring up about like, if it's directed well and things like that, is that, there are plenty of movies that I revere, that the cinematography is second to none, and it's like Saving Private Ryan. Like that is a beautiful cinematic film. That is also, it's kind of like The Last of Us Part 2, where it's like, nah, dude, this is exhausting. Like what is happening? It's not just about war. It's about how these men are dealing with this and their mission. That's like, so it's like, that is like, a renowned, like a borderline perfect film on like how it's done, but that's not a comfort movie. It's
right.
It's like even like I would say one of mine other ones would probably be like Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's like that is just a fun movie. Turn your brain off and just like have a great time. You can invest it in the MCU or have it on its own.
I see what you're saying, and I think that's why like in a fucked up way, like it is one of those like I'll go to sleep to that shit. Like I'll put on horror movies anyways and go to bed. But I think what it is because it is so long, and it's not just. As an adult, like I appreciate the fact that like, first of all, the length, but it's not overdone, even though it is really long, but that it's not just blood and gore and the stuff. Like there is quite a bit of dialogue. There is a lot of character, this and that, and development. Like, and it's not boring.
No.
And I think the reason is that when you have it as when they're the kids, they are graphic and vile and all this stuff. So like it adds that kind of like element to it as well. And then it leads into when they're adults, like you get this whole thing. So when I turn it on to go to bed, it's that I know what's the noises in the background. And when Pennywise speaks, and is it Tim Curry or is it Skarsgård? Is it this and that? Like, what section am I in? Like, I can just go to sleep to that now. It just takes me back to, this is such a good horror movie. I always want to watch it. I have a tattoo of it because I like it so much.
Right.
But, so that's where like when you were talking about like just shut your brain off, that's the same with me. And I think maybe even like MCU and stuff like that, as well as like The Office, I think because of the longevity of them,
for sure,
you can just hit play and sit back, walk in and out of the room, take a nap, whatever it is, and pop back. Oh, there's the Hulk. Like,
right.
It's like, I think that's what's cool about certain comfort movies. So franchises and horror.
I mean, seriously, because it's even like, I find that my comfort stuff kind of changes, like, especially when we get to like more like Halloween time and like, like Christmas, where it's like, no, dude, like I got to watch Hans Gruber fall to his death. Like I want to be able to watch, the original Halloween and then decide on what universe do I want to live in this year.
Next. Yeah.
It's like, am I going to jump to H2O or am I going to jump to Halloween 2018? Am I going to, completely disregard it and watch, Rob Zombies? Like, it's like, there's so much to pick from. I'm not like the biggest Rob Zombie fan of like rewatch, but just because there's just, there's actually a question that somebody asked. I don't know if we chose it, but it's like the whole idea where it's like, I will never willingly sit down on my own and watch a Rob Zombie movie just because it's just like, it's so vile.
Any of them?
Not really. No, I don't really have a,
whoa. Those are some big fucking words, my guy.
And the thing is, I think that it comes down to that. I like Rob Zombie as a visual director. I think that he knows exactly what he wants and he gets what he wants. I think we talked about it with the Merkins, but like when they were, shooting the scene where Judith is in her bassinet in the kitchen, and they brought it in and he went, no, get it out of here. He's like, put it in the yard. He's like, I need a brick and I need a rag and a bunch of mud. And he chipped off all the paint. He's like, this looks too perfect. He's like, we're in the Myers house. This was probably taken out of a junkyard or something like that. It's something that like has, like tetanus all over it or whatever. Like he has a beautiful eye. And I don't even really like have a disregard of him because of the Munsters, because I don't really want to give it the time of day. Like he's done other stuff, but it's like Halloween 2, the Firefly trilogy. Like, it's just like, dude, they are just so goddamn depressing. And it's just like, and they are brutal. They're effective, but it's like, that's just not something that I want to watch on my own. Like if he does something new or something scary, I'll watch it once, but it's usually not like on a repeat for me. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, not even just on repeat, but you made it sound like, nah, dog, I just don't watch his shit.
No. It's I can't rewatch his stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I rewatch most of his stuff. Now, again, it's not like a lot of these movies that I'm saying on here, though. But okay, you think you know a guy?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You rewatch his Joe Rogan enough. I figured you were all over all his movies.
Oh no! Honestly, I think that watching the Joe Rogan episode, like, it's just so interesting. Like, for somebody like Grandma that would look at Rob Zombie and like see him in like the Dragon.
I get you.
Like when you watch him on that, where it's like, no, he was one of the most like just well-behaved, just, level-headed, cool dudes that was on the show. Like, because like, even like when he was talking about music that he didn't like, he didn't even want to bash anybody. Where he was like, look, he's like, there's just stuff that comes out where it's like, no, this is just bullshit. But he's like, I don't want to,
I'm the same way though. Yeah. I try to be, but anyways, we're veering off topic here.
So, but yeah. So as I hit the mic, so Cyclonix actually wants to know, what was the first movie that made you cry? And let's be clear, I am the reactor that cries. So it's like, if we listen to something or whatever, like, it does impact me very much. Like even like how Uncle Steve has said it, where he cries when he watches Extreme Home Makeover, so it's like, oh my God, they got their kitchen fixed or whatever.
Well,
he
was the first one that told me I heard anybody cry from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh, absolutely.
Doesn't even... I was always like, really? That one? That's the one?
That was actually I remember that the first time watching that movie, like kind of when I understood what everything was going on, and I watched it with Aunt Heidi, and I finally saw the ending, and she was like, yeah, she's like, you didn't know that about him?
Yeah.
It's like he just travels.
Yeah.
He's just always on the move. And it's like, oh my God, it explains everything about why he is the way that he is.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, and what I meant was, until I got older, like, I'm not making fun of Uncle Steve. It was just,
right.
It was just kind of, really, that's the movie that he's like, every time.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And then when I did kind of not pay attention, but paid attention, I'm like, oh, this is fucking sad.
Right.
This explains why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're veering off on Uncle Steve instead. But
we'll probably have him on one day, so we'll see. But
I mean, I guess like I can. Do you want me to start with mine?
Go for it. Yeah.
The only one that I had was that I could really think of, and I remember where I was and what I was probably 10 or 12 at the time. And I know it was a pretty brand new movie, not book, but pretty brand new movie at the time. And that was back in the days, guys, when we had this pamphlet. It was about this big, and it said what it was on HBO and Cinemax, and it was your pay-per-view basically thing that you got for the month, because that was the fucking movies that were coming on, whether you liked it or not.
Yep. Anyways,
I digress. It was middle of the fucking day. Middle of the fucking day. Mom was gone, and it was like one of those, she was not gone a long time, but like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was summertime, guys. And I remember standing, it was above Subway.
Mm-hmm.
That's the house we were at.
Yeah.
Standing in that living room and watching Of Mice and Men.
I was wondering if this is the one, because I know you've talked about it with me before, but it's been a long time.
So I watched this. I don't know why. Like, it just sucked me in. It was Gary Sinise and John Malkovich, and I think
fantastic movie.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I just remember going through this entire movie and understanding the situation with like Lenny and like all of this stuff to a point of that there was something wrong with him. He was kind of childlike and he was quite strong.
Right.
So fast forward to the end. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like a 60-year-old book. But
right. So if you've not seen Of Mice and Men, then maybe we're doing your service of preparing you.
But spoiler alert coming. When he accidentally kills the girl,
right,
and then he has them, Gary Sinise has them go out into the woods and has him kneel down and talk about the farm that they were going to raise together and the bunny rabbits. And when he shoots him in the back of the fucking head.
Because they were going to kill him and take their time. Yeah.
I did. Well, that was, I think, that's where I started to cry. Mom was not home.
You were raw dogging this. Yeah.
But she came home within about 5 minutes of it being over.
Oh, God.
And she was like, what? She's like trying to check, like I'm hurt, like something is wrong with me. Well, there was. And I think the credits were still on. And I'm like, no, the movie, and he just shot him in the head. Like, and she's like, what is wrong? And so I explained it to her and she was like, oh dear God. And my thing is that I didn't understand at the time why he did it. Until I got, like you said, they were going to take their time and torture this dude.
Like, accident or not, he unfortunately killed this guy's girlfriend. Like, it's
correct.
It's a fucked up situation, no matter how you look at it. Yeah.
So in my mind, it was his friend, his brother, his whatever, that while he was this childlike mentality of couldn't wait to help, get to feed the bunnies and the dogs that they were going to have. And mid-sentence, John Malkovich was so good. I can't even mimic, but I get to tend to the goddamn and it was lights out.
Yeah.
And how he just ended his phrase without finishing it, I think is what got me too.
It's because it's so abrupt. It's like
so
there's
abrupt.
no warning whatsoever. Yeah.
And I think that because of me not understanding why his friend did it is what got me even worse.
Yeah.
It kind of almost falls into that mentality of when Chandler's sister and I watched It for the new It.
Yeah.
When at the end, when not Eddie, but Richie.
Yeah.
Is out there and he's upset and he's crying, and Riley was upset because he was crying because he lost his friend. And I was like, well, do you understand? And it was a mistake to even explain the fact that he was gay and he loved him and he wanted him to like be his boyfriend. Oh, it was even worse.
Yeah.
When I explained, I should have just kept my fucking mouth shut, and she went into a bigger frenzy. It's like your mind only lets you go so far. And when I didn't understand it, it kind of made it worse.
Yeah.
Because it was like, well, why did you do that? Why would you do that to somebody?
Right.
But then when I got older, I'm like, fuck, he did him a favor.
Yeah. And it's especially the way
It's like I was almost like, why couldn't they just run?
Right. Well, it's even like the way that Gary Sinise even acts that out, like after the fact of like he did it. And now, like I think like he like squats down and like puts the gun down and just sobs, or starts to cry.
Yep.
And I think the credits roll like very soon after that. There's not much. Like,
I don't remember. I'm pretty traumatized. Like I really don't remember much after that.
Right. Yeah. Because
I kind of refuse to watch it a lot.
Well, I think that there's because that movie is a work of art. It's awesome. Like it's got everything going for it. Everybody that is supposed to play an asshole plays an asshole very well. Everybody that plays a good person plays it very well. And it tacks on to why it's so impactful, because there are films that try to do that and it falls flat, or maybe it affects like other people, but it doesn't affect you. But like there are just some films that like they just across the board where it's like, no, if you watch this, you will cry. Like it's like like if you don't have a fucking soul.
Right.
So, but
well, what's yours?
It's tough because I don't remember which one it was, but I have a sneaking suspicion, and you're gonna laugh.
Okay.
I know I was young enough that I had to. What was it? How it like even came up was that I didn't understand that when people died in movies that they were okay in real life. Like it was kind of like that, that mystery of being like, Eddie getting pulled apart by T-Rexes and stuff like that. I thought that actor was dead, like that kind of a thing. And I begged Mom to let me watch The Good Son, to watch it all the way through. And the only thing I associated Macaulay Culkin with was Home Alone and being this, really, rambunctious, fun kid and, like defeating the bad guys and all this stuff. And even though he plays the psychopath that he does and plays it really fucking well.
Scarily well.
It's just like, that's one of those movies that like every once in a while I forget about it. And then when it comes back, it's like a flood, because it's like, oh my God, this movie is so intense, because it's just
Elijah Wood. Hello.
Yeah. Right. And when, again, spoiler warning if you've never seen The Good Son, but just the fact that she has to make that choice of which one is she going to let go of on the cliff, and seeing him fall and hearing him scream, where it's like, first off, now I listen to it, it's just him screaming outside when he sees the dude with the shovel, because like he screams the same way.
Oh yeah,
but dude, like I remember freaking out and just being like, he needs to be in other movies. He can't die. Like what the fuck? I didn't say that, but mom was like, Kyle, it's okay. Like this, he's an actor. Like this isn't real. So like it wasn't even like a sad movie. I mean, the movie is sad, but it's like, but it wasn't this like thing of like, oh, a character died that was very endearing, or like somebody lost somebody or whatever.
What was the other one?
So, I don't actually know. It wasn't the movie. It was the book. And I remember mom felt fucking terrible because it was kind of like at the point of like post divorce and like, you know, like we were all like trying to like get ourselves like normalized and stuff. And she decided that she was going to read me Charlotte's Web.
Okay,
and,
well,
yeah,
I think,
and you know, Charlotte dies. So like, and I remember just crying and like, don't tell anybody that I cried over a spider, you know. So
well, no, that I'm going to actually do you one better than that. Then I know what your first movie was, because The Good Son was clearly after it. It's Home Alone. When he steps on the nail.
Oh my God, I totally forgot. Yeah,
every time. Bro, every single time, because before that would have been Barney when he got his ouchie on his tail, but that's not a movie. Yeah. But that's when I was like, okay, well, what's his other one? Because I was like, okay, Macaulay Culkin, okay, you're on the right track here. Because I was like, oh, he's going to say Home Alone right away.
Yeah, no, I totally forgot about that. The whole nail
100% it was when Marv stands on the nail. Because I always remember being like, in a sense, being like, you fucking pussy, it's a movie. What is your...
Now you watch it all the time.
Yeah, now it makes sense that you thought people really got hurt.
Yeah, because I had that disassociation where all I saw, like, because I think it's a testament to the fact that, like, at that time, that movies were made so well that it's like when,
sure,
you know, it was that type of thing. But again, it's like being a kid and like not understanding, you know, that
so
whole
that
deal.
Makes way more sense. Because I like legit, even I would be like, why the fuck is he freaking out over this? It's a movie, and he's still in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, right.
Like, not even the fact of like knowing that you didn't think people were alive if they died, but it's like he's clearly okay and walking around. It's like I never understood that, but now that makes sense. But yeah, dude, it was Home Alone, 100%.
Yeah, that's wow. That's actually bringing a lot back. So, especially the Barney thing, yeah, guys.
You're welcome,
guys. I freaked the fuck out every time because I think it was like Barney got like rollerblades or whatever in the one episode, and he fell and hurt his tail. And dude, you were such a dick. I love it. Like at the time, it was traumatizing. Now that I'm an adult, that's one of the funniest damn things I've ever heard. But I remember like watching the episode, and where we were living, we had the staircase that was like behind the living room. Yeah. And that's where I would run and hide every time that it would happen. And I remember you looking at me, you're like, what's happening? Mom was like, oh, he hates this part. And hearing him spin and lose it, and he hits his tail, and I heard you go, ha ha. And I was like, it's not funny. Bro. Barney got hurt. It's like just, oh God.
End of the fucking world. Like it was, bro. Like I was just like, wow, almost like the nail. Like, really, this is what's gonna get you? Okay, man. Yeah, right, like, I'm just gonna amp it up and tweak it to 11 here now.
You were doing your big brother duty.
Of course,
you were doing your right deal. So, but let's do this. We'll move on to Nevaeh's. What is a movie that you will always recommend to somebody, and why? Now, I think that this can go many different ways, you know, so it's like the idea of like, you know, whether or not you want to focus on genre, whether or not like a good scary movie or like a good drama or whatever. I think actually the choice that I have is interesting because it's a movie that I remember at the time when it came out that with CJ, that, you know, him and I were the same age, and he was all over this movie. And I'm like, really? Like, he's like, no, this movie's fantastic. And I remember watching this, you know, these dialogue scenes and like the action sequences and stuff where like what should be boring for a kid, where it's like, no, they're talking about this. This is what this whole scene's about. And now we're going to get to the good stuff. And it's The Patriot.
Oh,
Dude, it is
okay.
It is a
I was like, man, what is he talking about?
I don't know how. I know it is historically accurate of what happened with the war at that point, but obviously Mel Gibson's story, that specific thing of that family, like, I don't know if maybe that was inspired by some stuff or whatever, and then they kind of like Hollywooded it, or if it was just a really good script and they were like, oh no, this is the story we're gonna tell that's like living in this universe of a what if. But dude, like. From Heath Ledger to Mel Gibson to the gentleman that plays the main antagonist, I can't remember his name, because he plays Lucius Malfoy.
I forget too.
But dude, it's just like it is just a fantastic movie. It's
100%.
It's
God damn it! I want to watch The Patriot.
Yeah, right. No, it's that's actually a movie that I've watched people react to a lot because it's kind of up there with like I almost said Shawshank or Green Mile. But for me, The Patriot,
son of a bitch.
But The Patriot is just like it's a movie that doesn't pull any punches, but a lot of people can watch the gore. It's not like a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's like war violence where like it is
realistic,
brutal.
but yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those where it's like you can basically recommend it to anybody because it's kind of like, no, it shows the reality of what these men and women went through, of what happened. But in the same hand, it's like it's also just a fantastic movie. Like the kids hiding underneath the table when the redcoats come in and like they're trying to be super quiet and get out, and like the church that gets burnt down with everybody in it, and like how ruthless that they were, and like how everything went down, like in Heath Ledger's scene and everything. Like it's just like, dude, that is
scene where the pastor tosses up the rifle with it already loaded and just come. Yeah.
God, yeah, my sons were better men. And it's like, dude, it's so fucking good. Dude, it's just.
Damn, now my movie seems dumb as fuck.
Well, I think there's different calibers, but like.
Well, I was kind of taking that mentality of what you said. Like, there's so many different ways you could be like, well, this is the reason why. And I was. Not for nothing, I kind of went through these questions last minute. I had my daughter, guys, and I was kind of working today in and out. But like, but things always do go through your mind. But it's like you had this more approach of the visual, which mine is too. But like the visual, the direction, all that stuff compared to mine. But like, if I had to think of, that's why I was like, son of a bitch. Like, yeah, like the Shawshank. The Green Mile, stuff like that. Like that is definitely stuff that I would recommend. Yes, The Patriot, because when you sit down and think of that category of like, no, give me a good, serious kind of action-packed movie. What is your recommendation, or what is it going to be a more dialogue-driven movie, but you can sit through?
Yeah,
that's very See, that's where like all of these different movies are so crazy because mine is very different. And I even asked you before, I was like, because he knows what it is, guys, but it's like, is this a cop-out of how I'm going to answer this? And you're like, nah, man, there's, different directions.
I think it's honestly, it's a better choice than The Patriot, but it's also because your movie is nothing but fun. Like whereas The Patriot's more of a, like, it's kind of like a long haul to get through where let's face it, it's a period piece. It's like, you have that disassociation of like, well, no, there's no cell phones, there's no electricity. It's like, it's that type of thing. It's you are going to a completely different place. So it's like, it is kind of like this fish out of water, almost like naivete thing where it's like, you have to put yourself in that mindset of how these people live and then what they're dealing with on top of everything else. And it's just, but I think yours is kind of more palatable, even though of the genre. That people can just have a good time with.
Well, so mine is, and actually you are the reason I know this movie, but it's The Cabin in the Woods. You've probably heard me say that a lot, but it's the reason I like it. One of the main reasons I like it, and I won't spoil it, guys, but is the ending.
It's so good. It is so fucking good.
The ending got me so good. I was like, nobody's done this.
Yeah.
Nobody has done this before. And that was where it got me on top of everything else that was going on. I went, okay, Kyle was right. Because guys, I think he like watched it like the day or two prior and was like, bro, you have to see this movie.
Yeah.
And
whether I am with you or not, make time to see this movie.
Yeah. And he kind of like made it like almost like an urgency. Like,
Yeah.
dude, go rent it right now.
Before somebody spoils it for you. Like, yeah,
Yes.
because that is a movie that you need to go in blind. Just like not
You do.
know anything. Yeah.
And I did. I watched it within a couple of days, and I was like, dude, like, and all the way, even up to the lead up of, you know, the ending and stuff, there was so much happening in a good way. And I'm going, this movie is so self-aware on top of it that it should be so ridiculous. It should be like a Trauma Vision movie, like a you know, Toxic Avenger, but it's not.
Right.
It's not cheesy. It's got a good budget, good actors and actresses as far as like, you know, name wise and
Fucking
whatnot.
Chris Hemsworth. He's
Right. Nah, before he was Thor.
Yeah,
but,
right, yeah.
But still, there was just this whole thing about it. And then that happened. And I went, that's why. Like that's why, like, I think a big reason why Kyle was like, dude, you have to see this.
Yeah.
But you also stated it was kind of a cinematic masterpiece for the time and for being a horror movie, guys. It's not going to break, you know, Oscar records like, you know, the Titanic.
No.
But I think that is one movie that even if you don't necessarily like horror, there wasn't, they gave you everything except nudity. And what I mean is the fact of they gave you all of the
tropes.
the horror movie tropes where it's like, you know, the virgin and the this and the that. And then, you know, the smoke. And then here's the moron. And like, it had all of those things. And like I said, it was very self-aware on top of the other things that were happening. I'm not going to spoil anything, guys, but it's just, I was like, this is a movie I can get behind that you can rewatch knowing what happens and it's still fun.
Yeah. It's, I think it's iconic, and especially like knowing the way that movie was written. Cause I'm pretty sure I'm like 90% sure Joss Whedon was the one that co-wrote it. He wrote it with one of his buddies, and what I heard, and again, guys, if you do some research and find something different, let me know. But at the time when it was like brand new, I think I watched an interview that Joss was basically saying that they got, I think like a hotel suite where there were 2 levels, and one was on one computer and one was on another, and they were just typing pages out. And like coming down for like, I mean, this is out of context, but like they came down and he was like, hey, by the way, the werewolf, the bullets, those weren't silver, right? Okay, good. And like, he was like, so because he didn't want to fuck up that part of the story, because they were like systematically writing everything. And it's like, it came together in a way that like it should not have worked, because it was kind of like that, like,
It was like messy almost.
Yeah, like, because like when you think about like even like Evil Dead, like that started like the whole cabin in the woods thing, you know. So
it was sure.
So like everything is kind of like borrowed from that and has done different things, and people have done their own stuff. But for the most part, you can really like call things out and know where things are going. And what I liked about Cabin in the Woods is the fact that it's like you literally do not know what is happening until the very end.
Correct.
And it's the fact like again, like thinking movies where it's like this is a movie
you
that
think you had it.
Right, because it's like kind of like the ending of Saw or whatever when you watch it for the first time, where it's like, oh, this is what's happening. Oh God, no, this is what was happening. And it's like, I love that, because there's so many times that like, you know, twists will happen, or like when like M. Night Shyamalan does stuff like for when he does nail it or when he doesn't, like I love that, because it's kind of like when you watch Fight Club over again. And it's like if you don't know the twist or whatever, and then it's like the idea of like you watch it again, you're like, oh my God, I can see it. Like Fincher put all of this stuff in here, like it was right in front of me the whole time. But but obviously your mind would not go there because you're focused on these things instead.
Yep.
You know, and it's just dude, The Cabin in the Woods is just that's a movie that I loved so much that I bought it on Blu-ray, or not on Blu-ray, on DVD when it finally was available. I was all over it. I could not get enough of it.
It's a fucking titan, dude.
Yeah, it's like God, like they just need to make more movies like that.
They do,
like just self-aware. Let's see here. We probably got time for maybe one more.
I mean, yeah, I figured if we wanted to like kind of give like the quick versions of everything we could or whatever, but
yeah. So Marlo has a good one. So are there any movies that you refuse to watch again for any reason? So
M. Night Shyamalan movies, dude. And that
really,
yeah, bro. I'm like, fuck him. Like, dude, fuck him. No, dude. And that's actually, like some of the ones where they're like cliffhangers. So like this is going to be a double answer then for the one that was like, you know, unanswered or like whatever. I think it was Haley's.
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan, with the exception of like 2. Dude, fuck him and his stupid way of writing. Your shit sucks. No, it doesn't. It's fire. until like the last 8 minutes, and you're like, I just wasted all of my fucking time. And the other one was The Lord of the Rings, until I realized it was a trilogy. And then the first time the week it came out in the theaters, and I stood up and got pissed because they didn't make it.
Yeah, they were right there, and then
pissed, fucking pissed. But yeah, so and I'm like, dude, fuck him and all the shit, and he gets good actors and great. Man, fucking what's yours?
So there's like when it comes to movies that I don't want to watch again, I kind of like gave a little bit with like Rob Zombie, but but if it's on, I will still be able to sit down and enjoy like certain scenes or whatever, where it's like the torture scene in Devil's Rejects at the end. Like that.
Okay.
That to me is what I felt that 3 from Hell should have been completely, was that intensity and like the, and it's weird, like how that movie even kind of flips it on its head, where it's like, you kind of start to feel bad for the 3 of them. Like, right. Like, even though they've done all of this horrific shit, but it's like when the deputy finally gets his hands on all of them, and it's like, making them run like rabbits, like they did in House of a Thousand Corpses, and when he's whipping her with the belt, and he's like, what, you don't like feeling helpless or whatever? And it's like thank you. Like, finally, I feel satisfied that it all gets taken away. But
sure. But I get what you mean.
But nah, dude, mainly stuff that I won't rewatch again is extreme horror. Like with stuff like a Serbian film or like Human Centipede 2, but specifically The Sadness.
Okay.
And guys, this is not me saying you should check this out. And if you do, just know that this movie pulls no punches on, like, if there's a trigger that can happen for anybody, it will happen in this movie, and it does not give a shit about you. And I remember watching it for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, like, the practical effects that are in this, this is a wonderful, foreign film that's been made. And it was based off of a graphic novel called Crossed. So it's like, the graphic novel or the novels or comic books, like I've seen some of the things that happens that they didn't do. And it is like, I don't even know how they even got it written and approved. Like, it's like with some of the stuff that happens. But The Sadness is a complicated movie because it is so well done. I think that it is one of the best practical effect movies that's been made. I just don't need to go through that again. Like, just because it's like, it's taking extreme horror, like, different deaths and things that are iconic for like a Serbian film, or like these different things, like, where you look at it and it's like, if you're an extreme horror fan, you realize that it's also kind of like a love letter to those things of like, no, like, guys, we know the movies that you've, enjoyed or whatever that, has freaked us all out. And we're going to kind of like put everything into one. And it's just, it's a movie that, like, when the credits finally rolled, I was happy that I had the experience because I watched it with Mike, over Skype. He was like, bro, you've got to see this, because he watches everything, and he's like if there's a movie that's horror, he knows about it, and it was just like, I don't know, like it made me so uneasy, and it kept getting worse. Like, where it's like, it was kind of not like to the level of like, I'm sorry, The Sadness was more of this, but like kind of like almost like The Mist, where it's like, it just like, if you think it's not going to happen, it will, and it doesn't care, and it's just, I don't know, like that's a movie that I don't ever need to experience again. I thought about doing like a video essay on it and talking about it, but I don't know, it's kind of like how much attention I want to give it. It's just because it is such a brutal ass movie. So
I know I need to watch it at least once. I know, because you've told me, so it's like I probably will, but it's just like, I don't know, like the whole, like I said, for me, like the whole like never watching again, in a sense, is kind of slim to none for me. Like, I kind of do the same thing with a lot of I got one. Fuck the Fast and the Furious. Go fuck. But as far as like stuff like that, the same thing is like kind of like the Saw movies. Like, it's just, and it's not the fact of like, oh, it's because there's a few triggers in there that start happening. It's the fact that it's the only thing that they just kept doing. Yeah. And it's like, okay, guys, well, like, that's great. Give us compound fractures. I don't need to, like, I'll turn away or whatever. But it's like, you're doing the same stuff, and it is now just to be gross.
Right.
And it's like, you can do other gross things. you're just not.
Well,
So
yeah.
I had to just be like, nah, man, I'm done.
Well, I think that it's when it comes to like the Saw franchise, I think that the first 3 are kind of like the golden age.
They
you know,
are.
and
They
it's
are.
like the idea of that. I mean, because
It's about when I stopped.
yeah, because I mean that was when because if I remember correctly, I think it was James Wan and Lee Winnell did the first one.
Yep.
And then I think Darren Lynn Bousman was brought in for 2 and 3, but Lee Winnell still wrote those 2.
I was to say, I know that
You know.
he like still stayed on or whatever.
Yeah, and so like at that point, I think I don't even know if they even had producing credits on the rest of the franchise.
I don't think they did.
But because you can tell that the movies are so different.
They shift. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's now what I will say is that even though like Saw 4 is so chaotic with like how I think that them doing like the transitions and stuff that they did where like it was like, you know, the chick being thrown through the mirror and they go through the mirror. Now we're in the police department again because they're both happening at the same time. Like it did get ridiculous where it was kind of like hard to keep up with like what was going on. And then it's like Saw whatever takes place actually between Saw 1 and 2. And then it's like, it's all like, it got so convoluted so fast that it was like when I eventually did watch Saw X where it was like seeing John Kramer lay on his couch at home because he's going through treatment. And it's like, you're telling me that this guy,
All of this.
that he like, let's just take like, you know, the first Saw like with Adam and Gordon and everything. That's believable. That was a contained thing. Just 2 dudes that are chained in a room. There you can argue how did he get the equipment or whatever, but it's like, you know, I can suspend that disbelief. When you get to Saw 5 and you have the Fatal 5 and it's like all these like crazy traps that are done. Again, the traps are cool. Like we go to a Saw movie to get people get ripped apart. Like it's like
sure.
it's kind of like watching a slasher movie, but it's like they did have, in my opinion, I think that it's like they did have twists that were very good, like the brutal ending of Saw 5 and like, you know, the brilliance of Saw 2's ending where it's like, you know, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's like you realize that the footage was not live.
Yeah.
And that, you know, John Kramer was really in control the whole time. Like that's the stuff that I really enjoy. And it's just, I don't know, like I kind of pick and choose the movies because like some of them are kind of just boring where it's like, you're like, there's so much exposition and there's so much shit.
Exactly.
But I honestly think that even like, a lot of people didn't like Spiral, but I really enjoyed it as a whole. Like even like I know Chris Rock, you know, I almost said Chris Tucker, but Chris Rock, like he didn't exactly act the best, but I loved the movie that he was surrounded by.
Sure.
You know, so it was like kind of like him being a big Saw fan and, you know, kind of jumping into it and wanted to do his own thing, kind of add some comedy and like do some stuff. And I think it was, you know, well done, but, you know, just interesting. But yeah.
Well, I think on the last here, I just remember somebody asked about new Lost Boys.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Don't touch it. Good night, everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I think that The Lost Boys is a movie that I recently watched as an adult, and by that, well, not really watched it, but like watched somebody react to it because it had been so long since I had watched it since I was a kid that I kind of remembered it being kind of campy. And kind of like almost like, oh, like, you know, they're turning to sludge or this or that or whatever, like when they die, like, what was it? Like some of them explode, some of them just like, you know, die normally or whatever, whenever the vampires are killed.
Yeah.
But rewatching it like with a reactor and like seeing it where I'm like, this movie is terrifying.
It is.
Like it's like Kiefer Sutherland is like dude, he's just like everybody in that movie was fantastic. And it is an 80s movie, you know, so it's got some cornball to it, but
it does,
know,
but
yeah.
like the practicals and stuff, and then even some of the dialogue. My brother's a goddamn shit sucking vampire. You wait till mom finds out, buddy. Like, bro, like there was all of it in there, and that was a movie that resonates with me because of Mom and Aunt Heidi.
Sure, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, don't touch the shit, but yeah.
I think honestly, I'm open to them doing a remake if they, not even so much that because like they've done sequels and like, you know, Corey's come back for it and they're just like really they're just not good. But I would be interested, like depending on who's in charge of it. Like if they are going to do it, where it's like, look, if you're gonna fuck it up, at least fuck it up right and try, like that type of thing. Like, because honestly, I would love to see what Fede Alvarez would do with it. The guy that did Evil Dead, and he's doing Alien Romulus.
Okay.
Like, no, like give me a brutal fucking Lost Boys movie.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, true, but still, I don't know.
like,
I agree.
Either that or like David Fincher, or like just people that are attention to detail that would like do it justice and not just do it for like a cash grab. But
I guess that would be okay then, and at least see what happened. But not just some fucking like, no, sorry, Steven Spielberg, you're not gonna fucking remake it, or you know what? No, just leave it the fuck alone, then, dude. Like it was fine.
I will burn down the organization that made it if Michael Bay has anything to do with it. Dude, it's because it's like, oh, cool, we got it Friday the 13th, and the first thing it says is produced by Michael Bay. I'm like, go fuck yourself. I'm like, no, dude, I'm tired of Michael Bay ruining my childhood. So, he tried, but nevertheless, but yeah, guys, this has been our movie questions podcast. If you guys have enjoyed this and have more movie questions for us, we will happily do another episode of this, kind of do, some installments of things, but, it's kind of fun, just getting back into kind of the normal groove of things, after a week off, and everything from interviews that we want to do to topics, everything. Just comment below what you guys want to see. We appreciate all of you. And Eric, is there anything you would like to tell them before we officially sign off? Until next week.
Stop remaking shit. It doesn't all need to be redone.
Well put. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Adios.